Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News 9 Live with me, Kabir Naqvi. Joining me in the studio is my colleague Pankaj Mishra. And in the middle of hefty discussions and debates that do, garner attention, and it needs your input as well in the chat box, as in when you join us in the comment sections down below. We're trying to get you the latest news breaks, the latest developing stories, as well as a segment called Trending Live. And in Trending Live right now, we've got a plethora of stories from protests to firing, to shootouts, to employees getting fired. We've got it all covered for you, haven't we, Pankaj? And it seems like a lot has happened from the length and breadth of the country. You take a look at what's happening in the north, in the south as well. A slew of protests that have taken shape, and for various reasons, of course, and we'll quickly, race you past the developments, but also a firing that has happened in Lucknow court. And, let's start with the Lucknow court, actually. You know
Right,
what, Pankaj?
absolutely,
Because
Kabir.
firing inside judicial institutions is something that is, it's appalling. I'm at a loss of words
we have it.
for what you see. Inside the High Court,
Uch Nyayalaya.
you've got people who are brandishing guns. And first and foremost, how did they enter inside with the guns?
Right.
Secondly, you've got visuals. There's a policeman that's also been injured. What are the salient details of this particular case? And then probably we can expand this discussion into why do we even have guns in judicial institutions, be it the Rohini court where a shootout happens, or somewhere else where a security guard has brandished a gun to disperse the crowd. He shoots in the ground below, and the ricochet just ends up harming and injuring people around him.
Right.
What happened in Lucknow? Let's just talk about Lucknow at first.
So what happened in Lucknow? That's what everyone is glued to right now, Kabir. And inside the Lucknow court, in High Court in Lucknow, a gangster called Sanjeev Jiva was gunned down by unidentified assailants. Now, who were those unidentified assailants? Well, they were disguised as lawyers, something that has been tried and tested before as well in courts in other parts of the country as well. And inside the court premises, the assailants opened fire, and it resulted in the death of Sanjeev Jiva, and a young girl was also reportedly injured. Now, who is Sanjeev Jiva? He is a trusted lieutenant of Mukhtar Ansari. Well, that name rings a bell, who was facing charges in the murder case of BJP leader Brahmadatta Dwivedi. He was brought to the Lucknow court, Sanjeev Jiva, for a scheduled hearing. And Jiva has been already involved in multiple criminal cases. Preliminary reports, Kabir, indicate that the shooters managed to escape from the scene after carrying out the fatal attack on Sanjeev Jiva. So they managed to flee.
This is exactly what one wants to hear, right? You've injured a policeman. It's Mukhtar Ansari's henchman of sorts
Right.
that's been shot at.
High value,
Mukhtar
high
Ansari,
value.
who's just gotten his sentence after about 32 years of fighting that particular trial.
Right.
And after that, you understand and you get to know. And I understand that there's a lot of crowd there. I mean, because it is an appalling situation. People get excited also. Bhai, goli chali, goli chali. We saw the same in Saket Court as well, where a woman was running around. You had a man with a gun that was running
Chasing
after,
her down,
chasing
yeah.
her down. And people are just watching. I'll tell you what, it's so apathetic that people really pick out their mobile phones also, and instead of dialing the police, they open their
start shooting.
cameras and start video recording the entire instance. And the fact that the people who've brandished this gun, who've shot this person, have been able to flee completely from a court, a high court in Lucknow. I mean, and this is not trying to cast any aspersions on the ruling dispensation in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We all know that the Yogi hefty hand has dealt a heavy blow to the mafia in the state, be it encroachment, be it bulldozers running here and there. The Atiq Ahmed case, that got quite sensational as well. But people running away from a court after shooting somebody.
People running away, Kabir, is obviously is after effect and after math of the crime. And my point of view is here, first the entry, how it happened. And it's irrespective, you're right, it's irrespective of the location of the court. It is happening in the national capital, let alone other parts of the country. Rohini court, then you have Saket court that you mentioned, and now Lucknow court, not far away from, here. So all these things, first the entry, what were the checks and balances, what were the mechanisms put in place to check those who are coming, whether they are carrying arms or not, whether someone is carrying some other weapon or not. And then we have in the courtroom scene, obviously they open fire and they kill the target, Sanjeev Jiva, as they had been entrusted, the job was entrusted, and then they flee the scene as well. So the thing is, are our courts really prepared to handle such situation? And Kabir, I am surprised to know whether these criminals are taking cue from the movies or whether movies are being made on such incidents, because this is something which has immediately, very recently has picked up pace. This kind of, modus operandi, get guised as a lawyer, carry a weapon, and I would say, I don't think the guards would dare search a lawyer, because such is their rutba. When you talk about their rasukh in the code, and in smaller towns,
Pankaj, it's not even about that rutba that you're talking about, that aura.
Who will frisk them? Who will frisk them? So it's very easy.
The idea also is, and because I speak to a lot of lawyers, who are my friends as well, they say that everybody's rushing inside the court. They're saying, "Mera time aa gaya, meri date lag gaya, mera item number aa gaya, judge sahab baith gaye hain." And that's how they run inside the courtroom. And the police man or the security guard out there doesn't really frisk them as much. You can't really say that the security people on the ground aren't really carrying out their job, aren't doing their job,
No,
because
no, they are,
clearly
but still
we've got a Jawan, a young police officer that got shot right below his knee, towards the hind side of his leg. But I'm still trying to figure out what must be done. The Rohini court was not just a simple shooting; it was a complete bloodbath. In the Ludhiana court, remember when the blast went on? There was a bomb that went off in the Ludhiana court, a country-made bomb. In Saket court, we just spoke about that, and now this Lucknow court ordeal. In the mind of the common man outside, the court is supposed to be that place, that institution, which is supposed to give justice. And in that institution, the citadel of justice is where people are brandishing their guns. The larger message out there, something like this happening in Yogi's land, in Yogi's Uttar Pradesh, where many have said that, the way Yogi has been successfully dealing with the mafia, this is a complete contrast picture, isn't it?
Well, it is definitely, and in the citadels of justice, if such an event would happen, my question is, where would people go from there? If you are facing, say, a murder charge, or a criminal is facing a murder charge, he is being produced in the court, someone else kills him. Now, there is another person who is on the run who is facing murder charge. Where will you take him? To the court? Again, the court is becoming a place. I know we cannot be painting all the courts with the same brush, but at a highly sensitive locations like a court, if such an event happens, then obviously beyond doubt there is something terribly wrong within the system. And look at the policeman. He's limping, he's been shot in his knee, possibly from the backside, and the cops are helping him.
There's a minor girl also that got injured. There are reports that are doing the round. We must tread carefully in in terms of the information that's now coming out of Lucknow at the moment. There's a minor girl that's been injured, and this gangster, Sanjeev Jiva, he's been shot dead. Mukhtar Ansari's henchman per se.
Well, since the time, Kabir, and our viewers would also, find a connect here. Since the time Atiq Ahmed was shot dead in the court complex, that was something that opened the eyes of the police and the general public on the safety parameters, not just within the court premises, but also of the convicts, of the culprits. Now, in situations like these, when we have gun-toting lawyers disguised as lawyers, gangsters disguised as lawyers on the prowl, it becomes very difficult to actually provide security and, as far as you are outside the court or police compound premises. But now, since you are in a court complex, there should be an external periphery of security that is also there. Court places are not public places. Yes, you can visit there, but only if you have some work to do there. Not like you can go there as a park or something like that. So, for people who are going there, must be frisked, must be a token for entry, all those things bypassed. Obviously, there was no searching of the, assailants, lawyers.
Clearly, Pankaj,
they carried the guns. And also, why don't we ask our, viewers here, they could go to the YouTube chat box and they can suggest solutions. I'm sure they will be quite genuine, ingenious also. But yes, why don't you, put your thoughts in the chat box and suggest how better the courts can be made safer in the country.
I'm just going through the chat box right now. It seems like, Pankaj, Manipur is a sensitive issue, and people are really angered. How do you placate people in Manipur is a completely different ballgame altogether. And we've been doing constant discussions Many thanks for all the viewers who are constantly, connecting with News9 Live for all updates that are coming out of Manipur. The idea is to represent both the sides. The idea is to bring you the expert voices so that you can understand what's really happening in Manipur. But coming back to Lucknow, and we have a couple more stories to go at as well.
Right.
I think the bottom line in this particular case is that there needs to be reformation. We need to come to terms with the fact that our citadels of justice aren't just that safe anymore. Everyday conversations between college mates or students, about how this place is so crowded. It'd be so easy to carry out an attack over here.
Right.
It'd be so easy to carry out an attack at a railway station where people are, and it would only make sense that, you hit places that are really crowded. So in a crowded place like a court, and trust me, I've been to several courts, those places are hustling and bustling. You can't even make sure who's standing next to you at that particular point in time.
Right.
And people are walking in. Is all that you need is a barrister's what the neck piece? I'm forgetting the name, the actual terminology for it. The collar,
the small
and
collar tie sort of thing that they
you have the black overall. Is that all you need? Is that the disguise? Is that enough? That's the question that one must ask. And if you have any opinions for us, do let us know in the comment section below. All right, Pankaj, let's quickly move on. Second part of this trending live segment that we're bringing to all the viewers to understand what's happening on a live basis, what's happening, the updates that we're just receiving. Some protests have taken place. And, protests of all shapes and sizes, of all viewpoints, various demands.
All across the country.
All across the
also,
country.
yeah.
From, medal immersion in the holy river Ganga in Haridwar, to protesters, settling their camp out at Jantar Mantar.
Yes.
We've seen so much. The farmers, the farm laws, so long, more than a year-long protest.
Well, there have been lots of them, yeah.
Various. Two
But now?
water guns in front of the Kerala Secretariat with lots of, karyakartas of various parties in their moons. All of that we've seen. But today was a protesters' day out. What protest do you want to start with first, Pankaj?
Well, I will start in the chronological order, going from north to south, starting with Maharashtra, Kolhapur. Now, Kabir, this is again something that one would wonder that what perils would social media bring at our doorsteps. And this particular case of protests in Kolhapur is a classic example how the social fabric, I don't want to use that communal word here, but the thing is, I used it already. The thing is, we have to have a grip somewhere. We have to have a handle somewhere where we can actually, put down and differentiate between what is right and what is wrong.
The line between social fabric, which in essence means social reality, and social media, that line is thinning. Now, a blurred line can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Seems like it's a bad thing in this particular context. Let's quickly take the viewers, as to what's happening in Kolhapur. See, as you can tell by the visuals, tension has gripped Kolhapur over Aurangzeb WhatsApp status, which means it essentially is a status, it's a profile picture, and security has been beefed up as more and more people started using Tipu Sultan and Aurangzeb's profile picture on their WhatsApp display pictures, on their WhatsApp status. Now, it's the government's responsibility to maintain law and order in the state. I also appeal to the public for peace and calm. Police investigation is underway and action will be taken against those found guilty. This coming from the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde. So even as the Hindu outfit stepped out, they said they demand a bandh, which was supposed to happen today. That bandh, I'm learning, did not go as planned. It wasn't as successful, which is why a lot of people started partaking in vandalism as well. So the police had to resort to a lathi charge. Meanwhile, there are some political reactions. The Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister. Let's quickly play out those reactions and we'll come back and pick Pankaj's brain a little bit more.
राज्य में कानून व्यवस्था बनाए रखने की जिम्मेदारी सरकार की है। गृह विभाग और गृह मंत्री जी लगातार सभी अधिकारियों के साथ संपर्क में, मैं खुद पर्सनली अधिकारियों के साथ संपर्क में हूँ और कानून व्यवस्था बनाए रखने के लिए सभी लोगों ने सहयोग करने की आवश्यकता है, ऐसा आह्वान भी मैं करता हूँ। और राज्य में सभी लोग शांति से रहे, या राज्य में शांति रहे, अमन रहे, इसके लिए सभी लोगों ने सहयोग करने की आवश्यकता है।
ये विरोधी पक्ष का नहीं है, नागरिकों का इश्यू। ये विरोधी पक्ष का इश्यू है ही नहीं। दिस इज अ फेलियर ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट इन पावर, क्योंकि जब ऐसे होता है तो वो विरोधी पक्ष का काम नहीं होता देश शांत रखना, सत्ते में जो होता है, जो होम मिनिस्ट्री में बैठते हैं, उनकी जिम्मेदारी होती है. एंड पीस इज अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ पार्ट ऑफ गवर्नेंस.
महाराष्ट्र में अचानक कुछ जिलों में औरंगजेब की औलादें पैदा हुई है, जो औरंगजेब का फोटो दिखाते हैं, औरंगजेब का स्टेटस रखते हैं, और इसके कारण एक दुर्भावना समाज में पैदा हो रही है और इसके कारण एक तनाव भी निर्माण हो रहा है. सवाल ये उठता है कि अचानक इतने औरंगजेब के औलादें कहां से पैदा हुई, इसके पीछे कौन है, इसका असली मालिक कौन है, ये भी हम ढूंढ के निकालेंगे. कौन जानबूझकर महाराष्ट्र में कानून व्यवस्था खराब हो और महाराष्ट्र का नाम खराब हो, ये करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ये भी हम ढूंढ के निकालेंगे. लेकिन मेरा इतना ही निवेदन है, परिस्थिति पूरी नियंत्रण में है, कहीं पर भी अभी अनियंत्रित इस प्रकार की व्यवस्था नहीं है, अव्यवस्था भी नहीं है. लेकिन मेरे सबसे निवेदन है, कोई भी कानून को हाथ में न ले, कानून को हाथ में लिया तो उसके ऊपर कार्रवाई की जाए.
Also, Pankaj, I mean, take a look at these visuals that we have going for all the viewers. This is the amount of vandalism that happened, and the police has had to resort to a lathi charge. I'm learning the entire commotion and chaos erupted because the bandh that the Hindu organizations had called for did not really go as per plan. And Devendra Fadnavis's latest reaction as well, when we heard him say that the औरंगजेब की औलादें यहाँ पैदा हो गई हैं, औरंगजेब की औलादों ने यहाँ पे उनकी तस्वीर को WhatsApp पे डाला है. Isn't the chief minister's, the deputy chief minister, the chief minister's position, it holds sanctity, doesn't it? I mean, giving more fuel into this communal outset of Hindu versus Muslim, how is that going to help? I know the elections are right around the corner, and this is a card that the Hindutva-based party has played time and again. But on the ground, take a look at what's happening. Complete apathy, people getting hit.
Right.
आप बता सकते हैं इन तस्वीरों को देखकर कौन हिंदू है, कौन मुसलमान है? I just see humans getting beat with a lathi.
And that's, again, we were talking about that thin grey line, Kabir. This is where politicians thrive. Now, we heard, these politicians, again, irrespective of the state and their own affiliations. But look at these visuals. This is 21st century India, right in the state of Maharashtra. Obviously, whose capital is Mumbai, known for its progressive ways.
It's the financial capital. It's the city that never sleeps.
City that never sleeps. And here we have, in broad daylight, police are beating the protesters on what? On a protest that did not go as per plan, and the protest was against WhatsApp status. If this is the state of the affair, Kabir, let me also quickly mention here, as I was going through the details of the story. Let's go back to March 28th, 29th of this year, when Supreme Court said that hate speeches will go away when politicians stop using religion in politics. Supreme Court said this, and they gave examples of how Jawaharlal Nehru and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, their speeches were very far away from any religious overtone. And now this particular, the sound bites that we played, first of all, their focus should definitely be on maintaining law and order situation. But this whole scenario, I'm telling you, galvanizing such thousands of youth there, youngsters of Kolhapur, facing a police ki lathi, they wouldn't have all those flags that you see. They wouldn't have gathered here without the tacit support of a local politician. Now politicians are using again religion, and what we
Pankaj, nobody has that kind of time.
Nobody
Why
has that
would
kind
you
of time.
step out in this blistering heat
exactly
for
to
something
face,
that doesn't affect you as per much?
Well, that can be, again, faith is something that cuts across that limits also. But having said that, why would law and order be held ransom over political and religious issues? I mean, that is something, despite that, that's why I mentioned this hate speech concept. Someone would definitely make, whether it comes to us or not, that's a different thing. But then the way things are spoken here.
How do you mobilize? How do you mobilize a young crowd without spewing hate?
And
I
that
think
is
that's
part
the
of hate
blueprint
speech.
that everybody is already, they know it works. And I understand that, in a country like India, religion can't be
ignored,
devoid of other political realms. It can't be ignored at all. And when we're talking about that, Tipu Sultan or Aurangzeb, you know, that particular region, Maharashtra, Karnataka, the 2024 elections. Let's take look at it under the political lens. How important is this narrative for the BJP? How important is this narrative for the opposition in the state?
Right.
In the run-up to the 2024 elections, how sensitive is the Tipu and Aurangzeb as personalities, as you know, as historical figures in this particular political scenario?
Well, barring the historical aspect of it, Kabir, you know, it depends from person to person. If you ask me, for me, the situation or the requirement is not as such that my day-to-day affair won't go properly if I don't attend to, you know, these historical figures. My point of contention is, if people are being misled, who would tell them that they are being misled? Because obviously, for some, these things might get, you know, bread and butter on their table. But for others, people like you and me, Kabir, I can safely say, in a cutthroat competition like today's, you have to perform based on your skills and caliber, and not on the verses that you remember. If you are a priest, fine. If you are a, you know, a representative of a mosque, fine. You can go and go for that particular job. But as far as the rest of the people are concerned, and half of them who are running around there, well, it looks like they are just part of and parcel of the society in and around in Kolhapur. And suddenly, this barrage of you know, lathis that started coming on them, obviously they would be clueless, why is this happening? But the question is, they were part of such protest which had no sort of you know, basis altogether.
Well, certainly. Those are the visuals coming from Kolhapur, where the Aurangzeb's WhatsApp status has created this particular furor. You can see the police resorting to a lathi charge, and the number of people is also not a mere 100, 150. You've got more than at least 200 people, 250 people that got, you know, that got together at this particular juncture on the roads. There were chants and slogans. How will this benefit the BJP? How will this benefit the opposition parties? Because apparently it seems like this is quite literally political at its foundation. And let's not forget, 2024 elections are right around the corner. Maharashtra's seat sharing formula. What has the Congress done in Maharashtra? What is the NCP's role in Maharashtra? What has the BJP's alliance and the structural changes, the MVA government, and whatever happened after that vis-a-vis the Shiv Sena factions coming into play? It's a pot boiler. Maharashtra certainly is a pot boiler. What's going to happen next is anybody's guess at the moment. But it's safe to say that Tipu Sultan and Aurangzeb are historical figures that aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, not exactly, Kabir, not exactly. And well, they might be removed from the textbooks, but the mere mention of them or the support to them is going to take the political heat at least a few notches above. And you know, it's not just about Maharashtra again, neighboring Karnataka too. When you talk
Absolutely.
about Tipu Sultan, we just had elections there. Tipu Sultan was somehow being touted as one of the you know, issues in the election. So was
Statue politics, Bombay, Karnataka. Tipu Sultan always
Yes.
you know, a significant you know, issue,
Exactly.
a point of tussle in Bombay, Karnataka.
For those who are watching us, let me make it very clear, if they forgot or tend to forget, both Tipu Sultan, statue politics and hijab, all the political parties, I am not naming or you know, sidelining one political party, all the political parties said that they were non-issues for the election. But they do it right before the elections. They would say it's a non-issue. Why? Because they try to be projecting a secular image, so that more and more votes are being given to them. But throughout the year, 5 years of their tenure, when these issues happen, I remember 2022 it was, Kabir, when hijab politics and hijab was
right.
at its peak. That issue, which started from one school where a few boys were chasing a girl in burqa, I mean, that reached Supreme Court. And the
It
whole
reached
media...
Zawahiri came out in support of that girl.
Exactly, I mean, global...
Lashkar-e-Toiba's, you know, chieftain,
I mean, that is...
it reached there. So the communal aspect here and how sensitive this is, you're right, we shouldn't be using that word communal, but let's face it. I mean, what is this?
Exactly.
It is exactly that. And again, to the viewers out there, people say that the word Godi media is a word that is, it is sprung about everywhere. Who has the freedom of saying what they can, what they shouldn't say? Well, you've got two people sticking their necks out and telling you categorically that this shouldn't be happening when it is, and it is clearly political. So for people out there, I mean, if there is a political conscience that still exists, they would understand. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And not just this, Pankaj, another protest has taken place.
Right.
Let's shift our focus to Kerala now.
Okay.
Kochi Students' Union took part in that particular protest. And actually, to the viewers, let's quickly take them past what's actually happening in Kerala.
Why do we have this branding passed without a test? I mean, this is summation of the Kerala story. Sorry, Kabir.
So
were
can you
saying
pass
something.
without a test is essentially the question.
Yes.
That's the posture that we've taken, because after the imposter row, the SFI has landed in a soup over Kerala Secretary's exam results. Now, without appearing for some examination, the name of SFI State Secretary PM Arsho was included in the list of students who passed third semester Masters of Archaeology course exam. Now, following the controversy, Maharaja's College in Ernakulam recalled the list from its website. This is what is happening at the moment. Exactly what I was talking about. Water cannons, because these are students and not essential karyakartas, you don't see the white overalls and the white mund, but these are students. They know that, I mean, the water cannons are going to work for a while, the media is going to cover it, they're going to go have lunch, and after a nice, cold shower, catch a good sleep.
Kabir, Vinod and I often crack this joke, and you also have been there. Vinod Menon, our newsroom editor, newsroom head, he hails from Kerala, but he has spent most of his time in different parts of the country outside Kerala. So Vinod would always say, hailing from Kerala, he would say this is a favorite pastime also of the youngsters, of the political parties. By around lunchtime, they would go out and protest, and these barriers that you see are very trademark barriers of Kerala. The blue barriers coupled with blue flags also at times, and Mund you were mentioning. Why didn't you mention, because Vinod was not able to explain it so much. I mean, maybe we did not have that much time. The concept of Mund wearing protesters, I mean, that is something, I mean, with all our sincerity towards these student protesters who are actually protesting.
And the cultural significance of the dress code as well. And,
Yes.
Dress and costume plays a huge part in one's culture. There's no dissing that particular culture. But
Absolutely.
the idea is that these protests happen now and then. Again, moving a little bit away from the humor element of this particular story. The story at hand is that you've got PM Arsho, who's again a leader of the SFI.
Right.
He wrote some examinations, well, at least on paper, he wrote those examinations, but apparently did not appear for any of those. But his name has appeared in the past list for the third semester exam in a master's course for archaeology. Hence, the protest. What do you think is going to happen next? And let's not forget, college, the governor, Arif Muhammad Khan, appointments by Pinari Vijayan. When it comes to education and these institutions, Kerala doesn't let it easy.
Yeah,
let
we
it go
saw
easy.
those
You've got
tussle
highest
between-
literacy rate in this particular state. Students are well read, they're well educated. They won't let you, push them aside just like that.
Well, obviously, Kabir, and when we're talking about archaeology, how come we can't mention blast from the past that is coming in? And for this particular member who wrote that or who did not write that particular exam, he was candid enough. He came out and he said that I never appeared for that exam, but he passed. Now the question is, the other students and the students' body and political bodies also demanded the cancellation of the whole exam. The results, they were against that. Now the question is, Kerala, with such a high, in fact the highest literacy rate in the country, if it has incidents like these, imposters in examination, well, it's a good thing, Kabir, I would say, that their protests, they have been allowed to protest, so that it becomes an example that such event doesn't reoccur. But having said that, if it becomes a political issue, then again, the SFI and other cadres, protesting there. Look at them very intently breaking the bamboo sticks
I don't
that they have.
understand what is bashing up the barricade going to do. I mean, the police is already wearing helmets, aren't they? And they're more in number also. I mean, we know this is clear optics. But the idea is that you have a place, you have a space, and be proud of that, in a country like India, the largest democracy, there is space for one to step out and voice their dissent, to really protest. But is this protest really leading to anything, is the question that I'm trying to ask here. Because the SFI leader, PM Arsho, he has come out, quite frankly, candidly said that, I never wrote those papers. Now the exam is going to be cancelled. There are going to be several other students that would have written those exams.
And who have passed also.
Who might have passed also.
Yeah.
They would have to, sit down for those exams. So anger is constantly brewing up below the rug.
Right.
But it seems like the situation doesn't really facilitate that anger to completely blow out ever, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But again, coming back to these particular visuals, where is this leading to?
It is leading to only two things, Kabir. This protest, either this exception would become a rule that one imposter gave the exam in place of the SFI member. Either that would happen, more and more cases, such cases will happen first, or that would stop completely. Because with such kind of protest, next time onwards, people will think twice before actually trying to do this, because these are not just the students, they are political party members also, some of them, who have their axe to grind against the SFI, and hence they are also protesting. So in democracy, the scope and space of protest is very crucial. We have taken this, at this hour of the day in a lighter vein for our viewers, but the thing is, their agitation, their frustration in the afternoon, what they vented out on these blue barriers, this is also a significant move in order to mark a protest, the freedom to protest, and that is something which many, Kabir, are claiming that is somehow missing as far as the restless protest is concerned, which is happening in Delhi. Although they were given all the amenities, as I would just mention here, to protest at Jantar Mantar, it was only after their barricade, attacks that they were removed from Jantar Mantar.
Sir, one last question, sir.
Don't call me sir.
SFI,
Yeah.
SDPI, PFI, these are organizations that have been under the NIA's lens.
Yes.
The NIA's raids over there, there was something that people did talk about towards the latter half of last year. A slew of raids, that carried on for like good 4 or 5 days. Various visuals, youngsters calling out chants against Hindu organizations. Again, giving it a proper Hindu-Muslim tone as well, which is why it is sensitive to know and understand who's protesting and who are they protesting against. So SFI leaders, who are these people who are protesting? You've got the Kochi Students' Union that's come out, SDPI, PFI, who's banned, who's not banned. Can you give the viewers a little bit of a roundup there if I'm not putting you at a spot?
No, why? See, I mean, Students' Union, or for that matter, PFI, you mentioned, SDFI, SFI, all those aspects as of now, Kabir, they are under the scrutiny for a totally different reason. Okay. And we have had incidents in the past, threads of which have been connected or have been found linked to these particular organizations. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show also, that painting any incident with same brush won't be justified. Here also, their legitimate right to protest against an SFI member, or for that matter SFI's role in this whole examination fiasco that has happened, could not be connected. But yes, you are right, when it comes to PFI was recently banned, Congress was against it though, but then obviously it looked like the public sentiments were mostly in favor of the banning of PFI. It's see, as they say कि बिना आग के धुआं नहीं होता है, it did not start overnight. So there have been incidents, and I'm sure the capable investigating agencies of the country have had enough and decent proofs to take that extreme move of banning that student body.
All right. So even as protests, happen in Kerala, owing to complications that happened in the educational sector, you've got an SFI person who's passed without actually appearing for an exam, and hence the commotion. In Telangana, it's again the educational institution that is, under the ambit or the ire of the public, the students at large. but albeit for a little bit of a different reason. Here you've got the ABVP workers who protested outside the Intermediate Board office on Wednesday and demanded action against corporate colleges that were charging high fees. They also asked for cancellation of junior colleges running without recognition. They urged the Inter Board to provide all kinds of facilities in government junior colleges. Now, police stopped the protesting students and arrested some of them as well. I think detained is the right word here. No arrests usually happen. It's essentially detainment. ABVP workers protested near the Telangana State Board, the State Board of the Intermediate Education, which is the TSBIE, its head office, and demanded action against colleges that were charging allegedly illegally high fees. Pankaj, the salient features, the facts, what's happening in Telangana. K. Chandrasekhar Rao has left no stone unturned when it comes to advertising the 10 years of the Telangana state government, be it the Raitu Bandhu schemes, the Dalit Bandhu schemes, how much work has been done for the poor, for the farmers. It seems like this is another aspect that now KCR will have to battle out, because illegally high fees is something that neither the parents want, nor do the teachers want, nor do the students. It's only the administration that might be reaping the benefits, if at all there are any, and if at all this situation is actually being exploited.
Well, Kabir, this whole aspect, once we were before this show, when we were in the newsroom, so Kabir and I were discussing, there have been lots of protests today, by the way, if you check other sources. We chose to include this story from Telangana in this broadcast because of one good reason. If you go back in not very older history, Kabir, just a few years back, 2 to 3 years back, you would see there has been a pattern of protests in Telangana with regards to education system, not just higher education, but school education also. There was a protest back in 2021, if I am not wrong, on some results of class 10 metric results were also in the eye of storm, and covering that incident, Kabir, at that point of time, I realized that states like Kerala, which we recently saw, states like Bihar, these places are hotbeds of student protests, and they actually lay a lot of emphasis. I'm not saying other states don't do that. They do, but we have seen students coming out on the streets, young and old alike, in order to defend their educational rights. Now, third state that I could mention with certain sense of confidence is Telangana. And this particular aspect has 2 to 3 layers in it. First of all, high fees. Secondly, illegally charged high fees. Thirdly, unrecognized
several colleges that are not recognized are still operating. So there are so many layers to it. So when obviously, Kabir, the protests, the visuals, the cops and the students and the ABVP workers, all these are obviously a mere connect to the story. But the bottom line here is that what is happening in Telangana as far as education is concerned, because only 2 days ago we saw dramatic celebrations in the state. The whole state was painted pink, of the BRS colors, and Chief Minister donning that confident look made announcements there saying, listing out SOPs and provisions for the farmers. I'm sure there must have been something for the students as well and for the welfare of the state. Now, if this is the state of affairs in Telangana, I think for a nascent, for a young state like this, they should be really taking this matter seriously and try to nip this matter in the bud. That what are these colleges? I might be jumping hoofs here, but then Canada is sending a few students, not a few, but thousands of students, Indian students, back to India because of admission racket, because of fake, student visas. Now, we've got the Donkey Network that's doing the rounds on News9 Plus. Do download the application. It's the world's first news OTT, the Donkey Network. The perils of illegal migration. You might think that the pastures are greener on the other side of the fence, but trust me, that journey is perilous and dangerous. And I'm sorry to cut you short.
Yeah, sorry. And the point that I was making, and Kabir, what he mentioned, is that all these things start from here. You know, the colleges which are not recognized, degrees which might be fake, imposters giving examination. Later on, when you grow up, when someone grows up, if you have the wherewithal, then you would choose to go to another country. What? On a fake student visa.
So if a college is operating that is not recognized, you've got illegally high fees, then that means that there is enough room to take the law for a ride.
Exactly, and that's what, when it gains a bigger, on a bigger scale, then you
People
cross borders.
people lose their trust in the current
Education
administration, in the current dispensation, and then they think that, you know, maybe education in Canada or the lifestyle in Canada and the money is going to be better.
Canada is an example here.
Of course,
I mean,
of course.
there are
It's not about
thousands-
Canada. I'm just saying, like,
no,
going
no,
to the Western countries, of course.
Yes, yes. I'm sure, you know, the education system both in India and abroad, you know, if you compare them, none of them are any, you know, lesser than each other from any of them. But the point here is, again, for a state like Telangana, I would underline it here, it's a nascent state, it's a new state, 10 years of existence. We have seen promises being delivered there. We have seen how the fate of the farmers who are facing severe water scarcity has been changed. The state government is paying emphasis to it. But these particular aspects also, you know, as far as the KCR government is concerned, a very dynamic ministers also in the cabinet, whom tweets I follow often, and I see that you know, the youth, the touch of youth in their approach, that is something that needs to be done. And this, we are talking about the youth of tomorrow, the future of tomorrow, the students in colleges and universities. I mean, what better place to start the
Youngsters
cleansing process
protesting
from
in Kolhapur, youngsters protesting in front of the Kerala Secretariat, youngsters protesting in Telangana. These are students. We know what happened with the Railway Recruitment Board and the railway protest that happened last year vis-a-vis the Agniveer recruitment. That was something. And it's not just that. Examinations, you know, vacancies, delayed appointments. These are some things that our students really, you know, deal with on an everyday basis. And us here at News9 Live, we make it a point that the students' story and the student-centric opinion is the first thing that should definitely go out. You know, before we wrap all of this up, Pankaj, one last thing. The protesters here are again ABVP-led organizations. The students have been mobilized or are members of the ABVP.
Right.
BRS in power over there. The BJP directly in a tussle and competition with the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti. We know that it performed little better in the GHMC, the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation polls, than the assembly elections in the state. In December this year, Telangana goes again to polls.
Right.
This has been led by an ABVP. If we again, just before we wrap this up, and you know, try and look at it under a political lens, a political purview, what's going to be your opinion on that?
Well, see, I mean, again, the freedom to protest, that is something, obviously, it can't be denied from these students or ABVP workers. Obviously, ABVP, you know, the student body obviously finds resonance not just in Telangana but in other parts of the country also, and the universities also. I have graduated from Delhi University. I have seen them, how they work, and I've seen the way, you know, the promotions, and likewise there is a Congress affiliated youth wing also, you know, college students union that is there. Now the question is for ABVP, obviously, yes, again, in a healthy, thriving democracy, I would say if the students who are the future of the country are allowed to voice their dissent or protest, I think they have the right to do so, definitely. And quelling them doesn't mean that, you know, you have solved the crisis. It is rather all the more important for the state governments to actually pay more attention to what the students are demanding, because obviously their view and their needs are something that would guide the...
Aren't they the future scientists, the future doctors, the future painters, the
politicians
future
also, for them,
future diplomats, they are the future.
They are the
and
future,
shouldn't we focus on our future? If we talk so much about the human resource that we're trying to develop in our country, that's the human resource. Take a look at your human resource. It's protesting out on the streets in the sweltering heat, underneath those hydro powered water cannons, and at the same time, you know, a fee protest in Telangana. K. Chandrasekhar Rao, you know, he's got a big task cut out for him now, because even as he profusely, you know, advertises his 10 years in Telangana,
with 10 pages of,
advertisement
in newspapers.
This particular visual that we're seeing right now. I mean, students getting beat up, students being detained. The news says some were arrested. It's the ABVP. And, you know, K. Chandrasekhar Rao will not take this lightly.
I hope, lightly or not, well, as a chief minister, obviously, he has to look at it from different points of view. Law and order and safety is also an issue. But the thing is, looking at it holistically is the most important thing that the chief minister must do. And not just look at it from a point of view that it's ABVP. He should be looking at the bigger picture.
Well, absolutely. We'll have to wait and watch as to what happens on that particular front. At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, you've joined us in very happy time because we're getting visuals and we're getting information that that particular meeting that was supposed to happen between the sports minister and the protesting wrestlers, Bajrang Punia, Sakshi Malik, they had earlier gone to the sports minister's house. That's the visuals on your screens. We can see that, that particular car is now moving out. Wrestlers' protest is going to be suspended is what is the news that has come out. So the wrestlers pull back their particular protest. The wrestlers' protest has been suspended, to be suspended. What really happened at the meeting? What were the demands that were put forth essentially out in front of the sports minister? Because Pankaj, let's not forget, they had several demands that they wanted to put in front of Anurag Thakur.
Right.
Number one being that there should be an impartial a probe into this particular matter. They wanted the arrest of the WFI president Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. They wanted the Delhi police to act accordingly. There were several, they also wanted free and fair elections to be conducted for the the vacant posts of the WFI, the wrestling body. What is it that you're picking up from your sources at the moment?
Well, Kabir, the government has sought time till June 15 for the investigation to conclude. The protest is not over yet. That's what wrestler Sakshi Malik has said after meeting Union Minister Anurag Thakur. This meeting today was...
Well, there's a reaction coming.
हमारी बात हुई है अभी वही बता रहे हैं एक बार आप शांत रहे सरकार से कुछ बिंदुओं पे बात हुई है और या साइड में रोक रहे हैं साइड में रोक रहे हैं 1 मिनट साइड में रोक रहे हैं आप लोगों के बाइट दे के जाऊंगा आप लोगों को देखो अरे भाई महिला है आप देखो एक बार साइड में लगा रहे हैं 1 मिनट साइड में लगा रहे हैं एक बार साइड में लगा रहे हैं 1 मिनट यार तुम बीच में से या तो आगे मत घुसो मैडम.
It seems like a lot of commotion right outside Anurag Thakur's residence. Even Bajrang Punia, over there saying that, I'm going to park the car right outside. And that's again what I feel is, a shortcoming in this particular industry of ours. People, reporters are out there, they really do the hard work right on the ground, but it seems like everybody wants a piece of it and they want it first. So who's going to end up having the first bite of the cake is always the fight when you're reporting down on the ground. Bajrang Punia, I quite like the fact that, he took into account that there was a female, there was a young girl over there trying to get a bite as well, who was being, pressed into this this large crowd. That reaction's on right now. Let's get
कानून कार्रवाई जो हमारी गवर्नमेंट के साथ बात हुई है जो गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारी बात हुई है खेल मंत्री जी के साथ कि 15 जून तक जो पुलिस की जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया चल रही है वो पूरी करने की बोली है और उन्होंने बोला कि 15 तारीख तक आप कोई भी प्रोटेस्ट ना करें तो हमने जो उन्होंने प्रपोजल कुछ बिंदुओं में बात हुई कि खिलाड़ियों का सुरक्षा का ध्यान रखा जाएगा महिला खिलाड़ियों का भी और पुरुष खिलाड़ियों का भी और जितने भी केस खिलाड़ियों के ऊपर हुए हैं वो वापस लिए जाएंगे तो वो चीजें सरकार ने मानी है और जो हमारे साथ बातचीत हुई है वो हम जो हमारे समर्थक हैं खाप चौधरी हैं जितने भी हमारे साथ संगठन जुड़े हैं चाहे वो महिला संगठन है चाहे वो किसान संगठन है हम सब के सामने वो प्रस्ताव रख देंगे 1-2 दिन में हम उनकी सहमति उनसे बात करके उनको बता देंगे ये चीजें बात हुई है ये चीजें हम बात हुई है तो वो चीजें
वो गिर गया न्यूज़ 18 का आपकी कौन
ये लिए भाई, चलो भाई।
बजरंग प्रभूषण की गिरफ्तारी पर क्या बात हुई?
देखिए, वही सरकार ने बोला कि भाई हम 15 तारीख तक जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया है वो पूरा करके आप लोगों को बता देंगे।
और ये बताया जा रहा विनेश फोगाट नाराज थी इसलिए शामिल नहीं हुई, क्या वजह थी आज?
ये सारी बोलने की बातें हैं, मुझे नहीं पता कहाँ से ये लोगों के पास आती है। कोई नाराज नहीं है।
और वार्ता का दौर चलेगा, अनुराग ठाकुर से और वार्ता होगी।
देखिए, अगर कोई और बात हुई तो आगे फिर बात निश्चित होगी। धन्यवाद जी, धन्यवाद जी, धन्यवाद जी।
एक बार
आराम से
Well, it seems like Bajrang Punia's been through a lot of talking for one day. The media personnel on the ground weren't really helping the situation as well. Several important things that Bajrang Punia did put out there. He speaks about the cases against these wrestlers and athletes are going to be taken back, those registered. The respect for women and how women and females are going to be looked at in this particular sport is going to go through reformations. That's something that the sports minister has assured Bajrang Punia of. The farmers' support. Bajrang Punia said that for 15th of June, till the 15th of June, until the police, carries out its investigation, does it have the evidence, does it not have the evidence, whatever final report it submits in the court, the timeline has been extended till the 15th of June. So till the 15th of June, it seems like the restless protest is now going to be on a pause, on a temporary hold. In the meantime, Bajrang Punia said that he's going to be speaking to all the people that lent support to the wrestlers, in which comes the farmers. Now, let's not forget, Mahapanchayats have taken place. Khap Panchayats have constantly backed these the athletes. Rakesh Tikait today said that when it comes to MSP, an even bigger protest, a protest bigger than the one we saw in Delhi when the 3 farm laws were being demanded to repeal, that something bigger than that will have to happen. Now, Bajrang Punia said that within 2 days this time, we are going to speak to people who lent support to us. We'll put forth this proposal in front of them and then take the next action, whatever it's going to be.
Right, Kabir, look, the wrestlers have been given time till June 15th. That's what we know for sure as of now, and the protest is not over. How I see it is for a fact that the government has started to blink. Okay, first we saw there was no one ready to speak to them. Second, then there was a meeting with Home Minister Amit Shah. Later on, Sports Minister Anurag Thakur tweeted and invited them for meeting. This meeting lasted for 6 hours. Now they have come up. I would say it's +1 for the wrestlers as of now. The government has sought time. See, what is the comment that Sakshi has made? Government has sought time till June 15. So they are saying it's the government which is on the back foot as of now. They have sought time that, hey, look, give us time. We will try to figure it out. We will try to solve the situation. But obviously, the government hasn't given, I think, everything out. Action on Brij Bhushan Singh, Sharan Singh, that has not been made clear.
Absolutely.
They have been given, but at least it's a victory for them. And secondly, I would say, Kabir, this whole aspect needs to be seen in from 3 different parts of it. First of all, obviously, the protest that is gaining momentum, more support. Secondly, the Jat and the Khaps that are coming into support, that factor is also gaining momentum. And thirdly, is the fact that...
Well, Pankaj, let's quickly play out that reaction coming from Bajrang Punia once again. Well, it seems like there's some technical difficulties in the feed that we're getting directly from the agency broadcast. Bajrang Punia, it seems, has stepped aside from that particular crowd. He's going to be talking to the media in just about a short while. But the 3 things that he essentially spoke about, the cases against those athletes that are going to be taken back, there's going to be respect and reformation when it comes to women in that particular sport, which is wrestling. And they wanted, free and fair elections to be conducted to all the vacant posts in the wrestling body, all those posts that are free. And the farmers' support, again, I'm putting emphasis on that particular farmers' support, because it seems like the government coming onto the back end to, on the defensive end is something that was very strategically, postured and maneuvered by the wrestlers. And let's not forget, the sport itself is all about maneuvering. It's all about strategic posturing, who's on the offensive, who's on the defensive.
But right now it looks like it's the government which is on the back foot, and as I was mentioning, the third aspect is the Prime Minister's visit to the US. Now, before he embarks on that international trip, the state visit of US, this particular issue, which has been ongoing for at least a month now, has to find its a proper closure, and that's why the government has sought time in order to get their act in order and to solve this crisis without having to actually cow down in front of the wrestlers, and also not harming the wrestlers' demands also.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to note what exactly was the tipping point here. What really triggered this particular move coming from the wrestlers and Anurag Thakur saying that, well, hey, you know what, we're going to listen to you. I'm trying to understand what led to Anurag Thakur's tweet at midnight that, we will speak to the wrestlers tomorrow, and it has lasted for more than 6 hours. What was the tipping point here? Was it the support that the farmers had lent? Or was it the way with which the wrestlers were constantly posting themselves from that camp that they had set up in Jantar Mantar? And Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh's house itself is right there. It's right there, right next to the Jantar Mantar lane.
Well, what appears to me, the immediate reason why suddenly these things has started to happen.
उस पे जो एफआईआर दर्ज भी हमारे ऊपर हुई है, तो उन्होंने बोला कि भाई वो एफआईआर भी हम वापस ले लेंगे. तो वही है कि भाई 15 तारीख तक वेट करते हैं और हमारा प्रोटेस्ट खत्म नहीं हुआ है. अगर अब जो चीजें हुई हैं, जो बिंदुओं पे बात हुई है, वो अब जाके हम अपने खाप चौधरी हैं, जितने भी हमारे वो जो संगठन, चाहे वो किसान है, महिला है, मजदूर है, स्टूडेंट है, सबके सामने रखेंगे कि ये चीजें हमारी इन बिंदुओं पे हमारी बात हुई है.
15 तक अगर नहीं हुए तो फिर दोबारा धरना चालू.
वही मैंने पहले ही बोला, हमारा प्रोटेस्ट बंद नहीं हुआ है. 15 तारीख तक अगर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होती, हमारा प्रोटेस्ट लगातार जारी है 15 जून तक.
अच्छा, मीटिंग 5 घंटे चली, तो मुलाकात पूरे 5 घंटे हुई या कुछ?
जी बिल्कुल, आज पूरे इसी चीज पे चर्चा हुई है.
तो आप मीटिंग सेटिस्फाइड हैं आप लोग आज?
जी बिल्कुल. देखिए, कोई भी चीज है, बातचीत से तो आगे बढ़ती है बातें, तो उस चीज से हम संतुष्ट है कि भाई हाँ, पर ये चीजें पहले हो जानी चाहिए थी, क्योंकि ये जो हमारी बहनों के साथ, बेटियों के साथ, जो देश के खिलाड़ी जो देश के लिए मेडल जीतते हैं, वो रोड पे उनको पुलिस के द्वारा दुर्व्यवहार किया जा रहा है और ऊपर से उन्हीं के ऊपर एफआईआर कर जा रही है. वो दर्द पूरे देश को है.
अच्छा, 15 तक आप लोग दोबारा अपनी प्रैक्टिस चालू करेंगे अपने ऑफिस?
अभी प्रैक्टिस चालू तो नहीं होगी 15 तारीख तक, क्योंकि अभी हम जो हमारे साथ जो संगठन जुड़े, हम उनसे भी बात करेंगे, तो उस हिसाब से प्रक्रिया होगी. थैंक यू भाई.
थैंक यू भाई.
Well, so that's the reaction coming from Bajrang Punia. Let's again make it clear to all the viewers out there. Bajrang Punia says that the protest has not been called off. If anything has happened, it's temporarily been put on hold. 15th June is the date that everybody is talking about. Bajrang Punia says that dialogue happened, and that's what's the most important point, is that there is dialogue, people are talking amongst themselves. The point that I want to raise up, and joining me from the sports desk is my colleague Rohit Bhardwaj. Rohit, Bajrang Punia says that dialogue happened, and that is very important. Dialogue must constantly happen. That's something that he's very happy about.
Dialogue has been happening since the start of the protest, when I was covering live from in January when the protest actually started for News9. And at that very time, they were not convinced with whatever Anurag Thakur or any other people from the federation were telling, that even the IOA, PT Usha even gave assurances that she will look into the matter and have an ad hoc committee formed. But none of these things actually helped in the result. Right now also, as of now, I don't see anything. It's a stalemate. There is no result. They are waiting for the investigation to be completed, which has not been done as of now. It's still in its initial process, and I don't see anything happening. So maybe the wrestlers thought that maybe this is the only way that things can move forward in the case.
Well, absolutely, and he's importantly pointed out to this to the fact of how it is delayed, this meeting that Anurag Thakur did. And even the last time the sports minister met with the protesting wrestlers, and especially Bajrang Punia came out and he said that, the minister barely spent any time with us. And we were so intimidated throughout. There were, top-notch officials and administrative heads that were sitting right next to us. There wasn't a free conversation that happened. The minister came, he sat down with us, and he instantly left. It has come, albeit it has come a little bit delayed. But now, I think it's safe to say, Pankaj and Rohit both, that the ball is now, I know we're changing the sport here, but the ball is now in the government's court.
Absolutely. Yes, Rohit, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add there that I don't know, from manhandling of these female wrestlers to everything, I don't know how they have come to this point that they have agreed to all their demands of the government. But it is, one thing is very, very clear, that either the government high-handedness has won this case, or they have understood that they don't have any proof against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh to actually implicate him in this case. Or
got a reaction to give to us. Fights out among themselves who's going to have the first cake, because everybody wants the first bite of that particular cake, and no wordplay here. Bite's a bite. You've made some interesting point over there, Rohit. Either it's the high-handedness of the government that is completely played, and the wrestlers have understood that this is the way this game is going to be played, boss. Or secondly, you've got the wrestlers in a situation where they see that there's going to be no placating, no pacifying, because, well, hey, we don't have any evidence against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. That could be another situation at play as well. Which do you think is going to weigh heavier on the Libra scales?
I guess it is more about not having enough proof, because that is why Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh has been coming out.
Well, all right. It seems like the agencies are playing us as well. That was just a repeat of the older feed. But even as we wait for Anurag Thakur's comments,
Kabir, sorry to the visuals obviously here. If you see, had there been any sort of understanding arrived at, we would have seen at least a photo op, if not a joint bite opportunity. But here we see the wrestlers coming out first, and then the ministers separately. Both of them are separate. So this also tells a lot of things, that both of them have put their side of the story. No one has won.
Well, you never know.
There is a pause.
Maybe the pictures have been clicked. They're just waiting for the pictures to be released to the media. But coming back to Rohit, an interesting point that you were making about the evidence in this particular case, and let's not forget, it's not easy to submit or bring about evidence of sexual harassment or in a POCSO case, right? The idea is that the accused, the onus of proving their innocence lies on the accused itself. But there are so many, so many sips between the cup and the lip when you look at this particular case. Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, a history sheeter, POCSO case, several other cases. How much punishment? Can it be an arrest? What are the conditions for arrest? And at the bottom line, you've got your Olympians, the Gower medalists. They've brought laurels and name to the country, and the way with which they've been dealt with is something that has been looked down upon. But now, what you're suggesting, and I'm thinking about it quite seriously, the points that you were talking about. Throw some more light on the evidence factor that you're talking about here.
Like one of the wrestlers had mentioned that in the cause of just checking their breathing pattern, this guy goes on and just touches their chest. One of those wrestlers, they had come out in the open and talked about it. But the point is, how do you prove that? It's just an allegation. And maybe these wrestlers have realized that just making allegations is not going to help them in taking the investigation further. And the minors taking their case back shows that they have arrived at this decision that this is not going further for them in any which way. And Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh has been coming out in the open and again talking about bring any proof against me or hang me. I have no problems with that, which tells how much confident he is about not having enough proof against him.
And Pankaj, how are you looking at the developments now? We've seen visuals, we've seen both sides. You spoke about how there is no photo op that's come out as of yet. The wrestlers left separately. if there was any understanding, you're right that there could have been a joint statement, a joint press conference of sorts. But I think Anurag Thakur also, if he has made the right kind of moves, would be excited about telling the High Command that, you know, I have been able to pacify or placate the wrestlers. It has been put on hold. This is going to be sidelined for at least till at least the 15th of June.
See, the situation here, Kabir, this 6-hour-long meeting is very crucial here, and the outcome, as we are seeing from the body language, or could be the mix-up of the visuals from the sources, but the way it appears as of now is very clear. There has been no agreement arrived at as of now, and it's a time-buying exercise from the government side and not from the wrestler side, because the wrestlers have actually stuck their neck out, they have cast their die, they have put their cards on the table that, look, this is what we want and this is how things would be. Now, government is actually, because they have to attend to the situation because of 3-4 reasons that I was mentioning. The first and foremost being more and more credible voices, sportspersons, celebrities joining the bandwagon and asking the government to take note. Secondly, the probe of Delhi police. It has also started as of now. It hasn't reached anywhere. Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh has been interrogated twice. That's what the sources told us. Yesterday, a police team had gone to Gonda, one of the residences, one of the houses of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, where he had actually suggested that place as the alibi on the day of the crime that the wrestlers were alleging. So that's one aspect of it, the police probe. The third part is the support of the cops and the jats that these wrestlers primarily from Haryana are getting. Now, if I just read through the headlines that we have, whole Haryana will march to Delhi. Khap leaders from 21-member panel to decide on wrestlers' protest. Khap Mahapanchayat called at Phogat Sisters Village in Haryana on Thursday. So all these things are indicative of a fact that another if not bigger, then another farmers protest like situation could be waiting on the anvil for the government on its doors.
Why not? Why not? I mean, you already have Bharatiya Kisan Union leader Rakesh Tikait in Haryana's Karnal coming out on record and saying that an agitation bigger than the one in Delhi, which he's pointing back to the farmers' protest against the now repealed farm laws. He says a bigger one than what happened in Delhi will have to be undertaken for MSP. This is not about the wrestlers' protest, but Rakesh Tikait is making sure that the farmers is dabdaba, the farmers is rutba and aura, and their pressure tactics and power should not be undermined.
If the farmers arrive at the doorsteps of Delhi, be it for the MSP, today in the cabinet meeting, the centre has increased the MSP, but only for
MSP,
only for Kharif crops.
Yep.
Now, even though if the farmers come to Delhi's doorsteps, this particular issue is such an emotive issue, especially with elections in Haryana very soon. This could snowball into another headache. There we have the minister also.
He's getting ready to speak. He's getting ready to speak.
But in none of the frames, you see, I mean, if you look at no visible signs of any sort of breaking of the deadlock or any headway being made. Looks like he has to share his side of the story. And trust me, government has also extended all the help that they could as far as this case is concerned. They were allowed to protest at Jantar Mantar, yes. They were arrested and they were filed with charges only when they tried to break the barricades on May 28th when the new parliament building was being inaugurated. All those things government has allowed them to do. So for government side, it's a clear slate that, hey, look, police is probing the matter. We have filed the FIR. We allowed you to protest. What more do you want us to tell? Let the law take its own course. So that way, this is the point that he would be making, I think, very soon that he would want to cross.
And even before he speaks, let's quickly ask Rohit this one particular question. 11th of June is what I picked up from my sources, was that the wrestlers were planning a Mahapanchayat of their own. It was either in Rajasthan or Haryana somewhere. Is that still on the cards? Is that's been put on temporary hold? Because 15th of June, we're going to have to wait till what the government comes up with. And 11th of June, the wrestlers said that they're going to carry out their own Mahapanchayat.
सरकार की तरफ से रेसलर्स को न्योता दिया था बातचीत के लिए। बहुत अच्छे वातावरण में सकारात्मक बातचीत बहुत संवेदनशील मुद्दे पर हुई है और लगभग 6 घंटे चली इस बैठक में जिन मुद्दों पर चर्चा हुई उसमें जो आरोप लगाए गए हैं उन आरोपों की जांच पूरी करके 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर की जाए और रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया का चुनाव 30 जून तक किया जाए। इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी रेसलिंग फेडरेशन की बनाई जाए और उसकी अध्यक्षता कोई महिला करे। जब तक रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव नहीं होते तब तक आईयूए की एडहॉक कमेटी पर 2 कोचेस का नाम प्रस्तावित किया गया है। उसका क्योंकि टेक्निकल भी उसमें दिक्कतें बहुत आती, इसलिए सुझाव दिए गए हैं कि 2 कोचेस को उसके ऊपर रखा जाए उस कमेटी में। और जब रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव हों वो एक अच्छी फेडरेशन के रूप में चले, अच्छे पदाधिकारी उसके चुन के आए, उसके लिए खिलाड़ियों से रायशुमारी हो। निवर्तमान अध्यक्ष बृजभूषण सिंह जिनकी 3 टर्म पूरी हुई है वो और उनसे संबंधित लोग उसमें चुनकर ना आए, इस तरह की उनकी मांग थी। जो महिला खिलाड़ियों को या बाकी खिलाड़ी आवश्यकता अनुसार सिक्योरिटी उनको मिले, जिन खिलाड़ियों के या अखाड़ों के या अकेडमीज के या कोचेस के खिलाफ मुकदमे हैं उन मुकदमों को वापस लेने की मांग की है ताकि उस पर कोई कानूनी या पुलिस की कार्रवाई ना की जा सके। और खिलाड़ियों ने कहा है कि वो चाहते हैं कि 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर हो और वो भी अपना कोई भी इस पर प्रदर्शन या उनसे जुड़े हुए कोई भी संगठन उनके समर्थक हैं वो भी कोई प्रदर्शन नहीं करेंगे और उन सबको भी इस बातचीत से अवगत कराएंगे। उन सबको अपनी जाके बातचीत कराएंगे।
सर, सरकार ने कितनी मांगे मानी है? कितनी मांगे मानी है?
ये सारी बातें ही हमारी आम सहमति से हुई। उनके सुझाव थे कि ये करना चाहिए, मांगे भी सुझाव भी आप इसको किसी रूप में लेना चाहें। और सरकार ने बड़े खुले मन के साथ सभी विषयों पर पहले भी और अब भी गंभीरता से बातचीत भी की है। और इन बातों पर क्योंकि अभी सभी प्लेयर्स ने भी और कोचेस भी जो आए थे और उनके साथ जो बाकी सदस्य आए थे उन्होंने बहुत पॉजिटिव बातचीत की है और वापस जाकर भी वो अपने समर्थकों के साथ इस बात को रखें।
सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है। सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है।
15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर यानी कि जांच पूर्ण करके चार्जशीट दायर करने की बात कही है, करेंगे।
सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है।
Well, joining us on the broadcast is Sumitra Bose, senior sports journalist. Ms. Bose, how are you looking at the developments? Anurag Thakur saying that the talks are positive, there was due agreement between both the parties. There is going to be a charge sheet that's going to be filed by 15, WFI elections by 30th June, and an internal complaints committee that is going to be headed by a female. But several other demands that Bajrang Punia and Sakshi Malik and their team had put forth, the government hasn't really come out clean on all of it, albeit at the right at the start, your initial thoughts at these developments.
Look, at the heart of all this issue is that there is a serious trust deficit between the wrestlers and the government or the wrestling federation. So, if there is a result out after June 15th, it will be very clear. Now, it all depends on what the charge sheet will say. Now, if the charge sheet indicts Brijbhushan, then obviously there's a set of action. If I am to predict or if I am to interpret what Mr. Amit Shah has said, the law will take its course. We are all aware the law actually never takes its course. It can change from time to time. and you actually don't know how long the law will take its course. But the fact remains that Brij Bhushan's 3 tenures are over, and there will be a new set of people who will be in charge at WFI. Whether that addresses the problems of the wrestlers, it is not clearly known. Now, whether the new set of coaches, whether a woman coming in and heading up probe or heading up body will actually solve the mess, those are unanswered questions. As far as Anurag Thakur's comments, these comments could have come before also. That the police will file a charge sheet. These things could have come before. I would imagine that the Home Minister has played the role of a catalyst, a positive catalyst at that. And the fact that things have started to move in a direction, whether it's in the favor of the wrestlers, or it's in favor of, or it's just time-wasting tactics, time-buying tactics, that time will only say. But the fact remains that there is some positive direction. It all remains whether the wrestlers remain cool about it, whether they remain steadfast as far as their training is concerned, and they do not waste their time, because this is the year of the Asian Games. They need to prepare for the Asian Games, and of course, they need to prepare for the Olympics, which is exactly 1 year from now. So, all seems to be a little hunky-dory at the moment. Let's wait till June 15th and see what comes next.
But Mr. Bose, is it really hunky-dory? That's what we're asking. Rahul, my colleague here, who's with us here in the studio, he made a point that it's either that the heavy-handedness and the high-handedness of the government has come, as a proper fact to these wrestlers. They have sort of succumbed to it. Or the other case could be that the evidence in, against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh is going to be a tricky situation for the wrestlers as well. Could these two be possible factors at play in terms of what has come out of Anurag Thakur's residence after this 6-hour-long meeting?
One thing is, this is the first time, at least in my career of 40 years, I've seen, athletes, in this case the wrestlers, there's been such sustained kind of agitation by athletes or sports persons. I've never seen this before. No, and whether this is triggered by political affiliation or if there is a political angle to it, possibly there is. But I've never seen athletes being so sustained in their agitation towards a heavyweight BJP person or a government person who's at the helm of a wrestling body. And wrestling, don't forget, is a sport that wins us international medals.
Absolutely.
And the people who are actually in the heart of this agitation are Olympians and world champions. So you have to give some kind of a thought to this agitation, that it is a serious agitation. And the fact that the Home Minister has met the wrestlers twice itself says something about it. Now, as far as the high-handedness of the government or the ruling faction, why just wrestling? You can see any sport. We just saw that in football, but it turned out to be better. We see this often in cricket, and very much so. We see this in badminton, and you talk of any sport where there is no government intervention, including the Indian Olympic Association. So, but it's just that wrestling grabs all the headlines for the kind of agitation these international sports persons have done.
All right. Would you like to resonate or echo on one of these points, Rahul? Rohit,
yeah.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I think what came out for me, which was not correct, was the arrest, the question of arrest. If any other politician or any other leader or any other person or personality would have actually committed a crime or had allegations against him of sexual harassment, he would have been put behind bars or put under judicial custody. The investigation would have gone after that. Now, taking away the evidence, that there are so many things which are playing in this entire story. Even when you go from the start of this protest, you can see how the narratives has changed. It is a UP versus Haryana war, which was even tried to deflect the attention from the severe allegations that were part of this entire issue. So you can see how government interference was there, how these politicians have actually shunned from making any comments. Till now, Mr. Amit Shah has made comments, but before that, so many months passed away, but no big leader from the BJP or the ruling government came out in the open and talked about this entire issue. That tells you that obviously something is amiss, something is missing between the cup and the lip. That is what I can say.
Absolutely.
But yes, if they can agree on these points and the investigation can go transparent in a transparent manner, I am sure they will. It will reach its conclusion, and there will be some kind of respite or relief to the wrestlers who have been agitated.
Interesting, a real interesting point that you put out there, Rohit. Mr. Bose, that tweet by Anurag Thakur came out at midnight. It said that the government is willing to listen to their demands, and tomorrow I'm going to speak to all these wrestlers. And in the morning, you had the headlines and all the TV channels chasing this particular news. But I'm interested in knowing what led to Anurag Thakur making that particular tweet. What was the tipping point? What triggered this? Was it this sustained protest that you're talking about, that you've seen for the first time in 40 years of your career? Or was it the fact that you had the farmers backing, you had the farmers' support, that they were backing the wrestlers, the farmers, and their political prowess is something that can't be underlined or undermined here?
I would assume the sport-loving or the athlete-loving Prime Minister of India and then his deputy, the Home Minister, I mean, they would have played a role behind the scenes to tell the Sports Minister to come and actually say something constructive as far as the wrestlers are concerned. We all know about the farmers' angle, the Khap Panchayats angle. All that we have read, we have seen about it. We have seen them joining the protest with the wrestlers. But I think all those trying to kind of immerse your medals in the Ganges were all for optics. Just to create some human or emotions that you're trying to float you're going to sink, or you're going to put your medals in the Ganges. I think these are all obvious. But the fact remains that the Prime Minister or Mr. Amit Shah's intervention, very late intervention, I would say, has obviously changed the direction or the course of this event.
Der aaye durust aaye is one of those sayings that we constantly use in Hindi.
No. I think what Rahul said is that if what Rahul said, that if there was evidence, a person like you or me, if you had done some sexual assault or molestation, we would have been behind bars, right? But don't forget that we live in a country where the law and the rule is not the same for each and every one. So let's be positive about it, because at the end of the day, let's not talk about politics or whether the role of whether it's a UP versus Haryana thing. I am looking at them as international sportspersons. Two of them have won medals for India. All of them have won medals for India in the world front, and there should be a solution. But more than that, a solution for the wrestlers. It should be a message for all athletes under all national federations of India.
Well, absolutely. Just a quick correction. We've got Rohit here in the studio, not Rahul. That was my bad. But Mr. Bose, before we let you go, and I'd agree with you, to each their own. It's important for me to take a look at everything under the political lens, and we're right in the run-up to the 2024 elections. And I'm a sports lover myself. I know that, religion, politics and sports, the three things shouldn't be intermingled at all. But at the same time, to each their own. Keeping that aside, some things that the Union Minister, the Sports Minister spoke about. He said that the IOA ad hoc committee with 2 coaches is now going to take care of the WFI in the interim, and the importance of conducting free and fair elections before the 30th of June, because let's not forget the IOA, there were several international bodies that had come in support of the wrestlers. They said, whatever you do, in 45 days, elect a president, right?
That's fine. I mean, if it is a free and fair election, but I am a little circumspect about this free and fair election, because if I go by history of Indian sport in the last 10 years, there has been serious intervention by the government. And if you notice that most of the top national bodies, be it boxing, be it badminton, be it cricket, be it football, everybody who is leading the federation has an affiliation with the BJP. So if that is fair, so be it.
Right. Mr. Bose, please continue to be with us. Many thanks for joining us. We'll quickly play out the reactions from the Sports Minister and Bajrang Punia for the viewers to understand what exactly happened in this 6-hour-long meeting, which many are saying has been ultra and extra delayed, but many at the same time are also happy that the ball has finally moved. It's now in the government's court. There's some movement that happened. We're getting somewhere, aren't we? Take a look at what Bajrang Punia and Anurag Thakur had to say.
रेसलर्स को न्योता दिया था बातचीत के लिए। बहुत अच्छे वातावरण में सकारात्मक बातचीत बहुत संवेदनशील मुद्दे पर हुई है। लगभग 6 घंटे चली इस बैठक में जिन मुद्दों पर चर्चा हुई उसमें जो आरोप लगाए गए हैं उन आरोपों की जांच पूरी करके 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर की जाए और रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया का चुनाव 30 जून तक किया जाए। इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी रेसलिंग फेडरेशन की बनाई जाए और उसकी अध्यक्षता कोई महिला करे। जब तक रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव नहीं होते तब तक आईयूए की एडहॉक कमेटी पर 2 कोचेस का नाम प्रस्तावित किया गया है। उसका क्योंकि टेक्निकल भी उसमें दिक्कतें बहुत आती, इसलिए सुझाव दिए गए हैं कि 2 कोचेस को उसके ऊपर रखा जाए उस कमेटी में। और जब रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव हों वो एक अच्छी फेडरेशन के रूप में चले, अच्छे पदाधिकारी उसके चुन के आए, उसके लिए खिलाड़ियों से रायशुमारी हो। निवर्तमान अध्यक्ष बृजभूषण सिंह जिनकी 3 टर्म पूरी हुई है वो और उनसे संबंधित लोग उसमें चुनकर ना आए, इस तरह की उनकी मांग थी। जो महिला खिलाड़ियों को या बाकी खिलाड़ी आवश्यकता अनुसार सिक्योरिटी उनको मिले, जिन खिलाड़ियों के या अखाड़ों के या अकेडमीज के या कोचेस के खिलाफ मुकदमे हैं उन मुकदमों को वापस लेने की मांग की है ताकि उस पर कोई कानूनी या पुलिस की कार्रवाई ना की जा सके। और खिलाड़ियों ने कहा है कि वो चाहते हैं कि 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर हो और वो भी अपना कोई भी इस पर प्रदर्शन या उनसे जुड़े हुए कोई भी संगठन उनके समर्थक हैं वो भी कोई प्रदर्शन नहीं करेंगे और उन सबको भी इस बातचीत से अवगत कराएंगे। उन सबको अपनी जाके बातचीत कराएंगे।
सर, सरकार ने कितनी मांगे मानी है? कितनी मांगे मानी है?
ये सारी बातें ही हमारी आम सहमति से हुई। उनके सुझाव थे कि ये करना चाहिए, मांगे भी सुझाव भी, आप इसको किसी रूप में लेना चाहें। और सरकार ने बड़े खुले मन के साथ सभी विषयों पर पहले भी और अब भी गंभीरता से बातचीत भी की है। और इन बातों पर क्योंकि अभी सभी प्लेयर्स ने भी और कोचेस भी जो आए थे और उनके साथ जो बाकी सदस्य आए थे उन्होंने बहुत पॉजिटिव बातचीत की है और वापस आकर भी वो अपने समर्थकों के साथ इस बात को रखें।
सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है। सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है।
15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर यानी कि जांच पूर्ण करके चार्जशीट दायर करने की बात कही है, करेंगे।
जो गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारी बात हुई है खेल मंत्री जी के साथ कि 15 तारीख तक 15 जून तक जो पुलिस की जो कानून का जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया चल रही है वो पूरी करने की बोली है। और उन्होंने बोला कि 15 तारीख तक आप कोई भी प्रोटेस्ट ना करें। तो हमने जो उन्होंने प्रपोज कुछ बिंदुओं में बात हुई कि खिलाड़ियों का सुरक्षा का ध्यान रखा जाएगा, महिला खिलाड़ियों का भी और पुरुष खिलाड़ियों का भी, और जितने भी केस खिलाड़ियों के ऊपर हुए हैं वो वापस लिए जाएंगे। तो वो चीजें सरकार ने मानी है। और जो हमारे साथ बातचीत हुई है वो हम जो हमारे समर्थक हैं, खाप चौधरी हैं, जितने भी हमारे साथ संगठन जुड़े हैं, चाहे वो महिला संगठन है, चाहे वो किसान संगठन है, हम सब के सामने वो प्रस्ताव रखेंगे। 1-2 दिन में हम उनकी सहमति उनसे बात करके उनको बता देंगे ये चीजें बात हुई है, ये चीजें हम बात हुई है। तो वो चीजें ये लिए भाई, चलो भाई।
गिरफ्तारी पर क्या बात हुई?
देखिए वही सरकार ने बोला कि भाई हम 15 तारीख तक जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया है वो पूरा करके आप लोगों को बता देंगे।
और ये बताया जा रहा विनेश फोगाट नाराज थी इसलिए शामिल नहीं हुई, क्या वजह थी आज?
ये सारी बोलने की बातें हैं, मुझे नहीं पता कहाँ से ये लोगों के पास आती हैं। कोई नाराज नहीं है।
और वार्ता का दौर चलेगा, अनुराग ठाकुर से और वार्ता होगी।
देखिए अगर कोई और बात हुई तो आगे फिर बातचीत होगी। धन्यवाद जी, धन्यवाद जी।
Well, from the reactions that we're seeing, it seems like सब कुछ बढ़िया है, सब कुछ चंगा है. Everything that we saw, it completely has, all of that has dissipated, the anger, all of that, or is that not the case?
Well, in my opinion, I would say, Kabir, that the wrestlers have the upper hand as of now, and the government appears to be on the back foot because there are so many reasons. I mean, a government which did not send any of the representatives in the first term of their protest, now this time around, not just meeting them back to back almost. The last meeting, this meeting that happened was actually, the invite was sent from the sports minister, Anurag Thakur, who I think this is the first time that he is speaking on camera relating to wrestlers issue. Before that, we haven't seen him. There have been off the record, off camera conversations, but not on wrestlers in the media glare. So the government has okayed to remove the FIR against the wrestlers on May 28th. They have agreed for the elections of the Wrestling Federation of India. Also, they have agreed for a deadline of filing of the charge sheet, which is in 15 days from now. So all these things, June 15th, I beg your pardon. So these three developments clearly show that the government this time around is keeping the wrestlers in good humor now, because they are not in a bargaining position, what it looks like. For the wrestlers, obviously, the only motive that they had, the demands, the 3-4 demands that they had, they are sticking with that, and that's why we saw Bajrang Punia was obviously overwhelmed by the media microphones. He put his point very effortlessly, saying this is what has happened. Now on, the question is why the wrestlers should buy this assurance that has come their way. First of all, obviously, the government has not much option left. Secondly, this is for the first time when a particular date has been mentioned for the charge sheet to be filed, which, if you remember, even an FIR in this case was done only after the matter went to Supreme Court. So that kind of assurance, obviously, the wrestlers must be a happy lot today. At least they have got something what they had desired. Now, the part where the situation could become sticky is the action against Brij Bhushan Saran Singh. That would depend on the charge sheet that will be filed, the evidences that
again,
the
speculation
police
is essentially, right? Because
no,
we've got to wait till the
sheet,
15th of June.
But the charge sheet will be summation of what the Delhi police has found, whether the POCSO case stands or not, the case of that juvenile girl, or for that matter, the alibis that Brij Bhushan Singh Saran had mentioned, the questioning, answering of the associates, whether he was present in that event at his home where the allegations have been made. There are separate allegations.
A Commonwealth medalist and Indian Olympian were part of those associates, that were questioned by the Delhi police. So you've got some
and his close associates, so much so servants also at his Gonda house.
The cook as well, right?
Yeah, whether the minister was there at that point of time or not to corroborate that. So all this thing would culminate into a charge sheet. The word charge sheet and a date with it is the first time that we have come to hear.
So it is heading somewhere, right?
Yes.
Rohit, what do you have to say?
I think I would.
Is it more positive than negative?
I would say that it's obviously positive, towards the positive direction, because after the intervention of the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, and Mr. Modi's intervention, only this has actually moved in the direction, and I'm sure because they are pushing now for this case to be handled in a more transparent and fair manner, I am sure it will reach its conclusion soon, and the wrestlers will have a sigh of relief after a long period of time, after agitating against the government and against the WFI president, Mr. Brij Bhushan Saran Singh.
What do you think is going to happen of Brij Bhushan Saran Singh now? I mean, Anurag Thakur saying that he's completed his 3-year tenure. He was already on the way out. He's been sidelined already. There are going to be fresh elections. So he's been devoid of his particular post and role. And what about these cases? What's going to happen of Brij Bhushan Saran Singh now?
As per the elections are concerned, we have to go back into the past when Bajrang Punia and Sakshi were telling that all the state bodies also, you need to remove all the heads of the state bodies as well, because Brij Bhushan Saran Singh's son is also part of the WFI, and he is the one who is going to be the next in command. That is why these wrestlers were protesting against Brij Bhushan Saran Singh, and also asking that all the state body and the state federations, all the chiefs and the office bearers of those state bodies also need to be removed, and fresh elections need to be conducted there as well. So Brij Bhushan Saran Singh is very much assured that his son is going to win the elections as of now. But obviously, if the course of the case will decide the fate of his son, because if it is against him, and there is overwhelming evidence against him for sexual harassment, then obviously this the entire elections and the results will be affected.
And this reformation, you know, that people have been talking about, the internal complaints committee, which is now going to be headed by a woman, that's also a progressive step, keeping in mind and in purview the
I
salient
disagree with
features.
you there, because Sakshi Malik was part of the interdisciplinary committee, which was not exactly for sexual harassment or POXO cases, but there was a disciplinary committee where Sakshi Malik was also a member to it. Still she chose to come and sit in protest. That tells you how tied were her hands to actually express or put in all those sexual harassment cases or things to the WFI.
Absolutely, Rohit. See, by far this case, if you look at it, the point at which it started and the point at which it is right now, it's in any general scenario, this should have been expedited. This shouldn't have been such a long affair. Fine, I mean, if an allegation has been made, it has to be looked into. But justifying or questioning that why a particular allegation is made, it took a lot of time to find the answers to those whys. Okay, we heard PT Usha saying that these wrestlers are bringing this disrepute to the country. We saw, I mean, let alone all those trolls and social media voices, but we saw our own political fraternity and sports fraternity. Either they were mum, or initially there were some questions also being asked that why so? Why question the government? Why rake up this matter now when it happened 6 years ago or 6 months ago? Why dig up the old graves, all those things. It took a lot of time. The point is, the government, if it is now following up the case, then obviously there are 2-3 reasons why it has to do so. First, as I mentioned, it appears that the voices that are now coming with the protesters is not just the sporting fraternity, but also the Khaps and the Jats, and their threat was very palpable. Secondly, the point was, when Karnataka elections ended, there were voices again who, who were part of these protests, saying that started saying that the government was busy with Karnataka elections. The government was busy canvassing for elections and seeking votes in Karnataka and not paying heed this side. So that was also something. Karnataka elections got over. After that, now there is Prime Minister Modi is heading to United States of America on 21st or 22nd of this month, obviously on a state visit to the US, and before that, the government would try to, close all the loose ends. Albeit, whatever the case may be, I'm not saying that the government is at fault here, or the sports ministry, or Brij Bhushan Singh, or for that matter, the wrestlers were, it was uncalled for, the wrestlers to actually put Brij Bhushan Singh on the spot. No, that's perfectly fine. That's the right, once again. But the point here is the delay factor, and for that delay, as of now, while the wrestlers have done their due diligence, what appears to the common man as of now, without any bias, is that the government is now finally taking note, and the points that Sports Minister Anurag Thakur made as of now were very factual. There was no, mention लेट्स सी क्या होता है, ये देखेंगे. देयर वर 3 पॉइंट्स ही मेंशन कि ये बातें मान ली गई हैं, ये ऐसा हम करेंगे. Beyond that, there was nothing. And for police, Delhi police, obviously they had to. I'm telling you, the kind of editorials that were coming out, also the kind of suggestions which were being made to the Delhi police by former, senior police officials, also said that Delhi police somewhere down the line has to fight for its own integrity and for its own, identity. As a very unbiased police department. So that way also the pressure is there. And one final word, Kabir, in my opinion, 15th of June, a few days from now, maybe 8 or 9 days from now on, I'll tell you the outcome, if I could be the devil's advocate here, the outcome would be something that would meet everyone halfway. It could be a mix and match sort of situation, nothing too harsh on Brijbhushan Singh, Sharan Singh also, and nothing so light that the wrestlers too are not very happy about it.
All right. So just to sum it up for the viewers out there, a charge sheet is going to be finalized till the 15th of June. The WFI elections to the Wrestling Federation of India are to be completed by the 30th of June. There's going to be an internal complaints committee, which is now going to be headed by a female. In the meantime, the Indian Olympic Association is going to create an ad hoc committee that's going to be headed by 2 coaches. The demands that were kept in front of the Union Sports Minister were that, an impartial probe be carried out, arrest Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, conduct free and fair elections into the wrestling body, and the reformations that were needed in terms and in context of women in the sport. Brijbhushan Sharan Singh's associates should not be part of any of these bodies is another demand that was kept in front of the Union Sports Minister. And the cases that were registered against these athletes and those protesters at Jantar Mantar, they should be taken back. There is due agreement, talks are positive. These are words coming from both the parties on the ground. Meanwhile, till the 15th of June, the protests have been put on hold. They have not been taken back, words from Bajrang Punia himself. And at the other hand, we'll have to wait and watch as to what happens on the 15th, because 11th of June, a Mahapanchayat has been set up and has been called by the wrestlers themselves. Will it happen in Haryana? Will it happen in Jaipur? What are the farmers' unions and the Khap Panchayats who've been backing and supporting these wrestlers for the longest time now? What is their role going to be? Because Bajrang Punia made it quite clear in that audio bite. He said that we're going to go back. Hamare samarthakon se hum baat karenge. We're going to, there's going to be due deliberation with all the people who have lent support to the wrestlers' protest. Where is this headed? Well, we don't know at this point in time. 15th of June is the next date that everybody is going to focus on, albeit this protest is moving somewhere. It has made moves. Like I said before, it's only speculation where this is heading, what's going to happen tomorrow. Is there going to be a proper statement by the farmers' bodies or by the wrestlers or by the government or by Anurag Thakur himself on the microblogging website? We'll have to wait and watch. Meanwhile, before we wrap all of this up, quick reactions. Let's listen in again to what the Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur had to say and what Bajrang Punia, who's been the face of this protest, essentially, what he had to say after this 6-hour-long meeting. It's the second round of talks. Let's not forget, they've been demanding for discussion, deliberation, and dialogue. It finally happened now. Der aaye, durust aaye. Well, we don't know that right now as well. Anurag Thakur and Bajrang Punia for you, ladies and gentlemen.
रेसलर्स को न्योता दिया था बातचीत के लिए, बहुत अच्छे वातावरण में सकारात्मक बातचीत बहुत संवेदनशील मुद्दे पर हुई है। लगभग 6 घंटे चली इस बैठक में जिन मुद्दों पर चर्चा हुई उसमें जो आरोप लगाए गए हैं उन आरोपों की जांच पूरी करके 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर की जाए और रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया का चुनाव 30 जून तक किया जाए। इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी रेसलिंग फेडरेशन की बनाई जाए और उसकी अध्यक्षता कोई महिला करे। जब तक रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव नहीं होते तब तक आईयूए की एडहॉक कमेटी पर 2 कोचेस का नाम प्रस्तावित किया गया है। उसका क्योंकि टेक्निकल भी उसमें दिक्कतें बहुत आती, इसलिए सुझाव दिए गए हैं कि 2 कोचेस को उसके ऊपर रखा जाए उस कमेटी में। और जब रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के चुनाव हों, वो एक अच्छी फेडरेशन के रूप में चले, अच्छे पदाधिकारी उसके चुन के आए, उसके लिए खिलाड़ियों से रायशुमारी हो। निवर्तमान अध्यक्ष बृजभूषण सिंह, जिनकी 3 टर्म पूरी हुई है, वो और उनसे संबंधित लोग उसमें चुनकर ना आए, इस तरह की उनकी मांग थी। जो महिला खिलाड़ियों को या बाकी खिलाड़ी आवश्यकता अनुसार सिक्योरिटी उनको मिले, जिन खिलाड़ियों के या अखाड़ों के या अकेडमीज के या कोचेस के खिलाफ मुकदमे हैं, उन मुकदमों को वापस लेने की मांग की है ताकि उस पर कोई कानूनी या पुलिस की कार्रवाई ना की जा सके। और खिलाड़ियों ने कहा है कि वो चाहते हैं कि 15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर हो और वो भी अपना कोई भी इस पर प्रदर्शन या उनसे जुड़े हुए कोई भी संगठन उनके समर्थक हैं वो भी कोई प्रदर्शन नहीं करेंगे और उन सबको भी इस बातचीत से अवगत कराएंगे। उन सबको अपनी जाके बातचीत कराएंगे।
सर, सरकार ने कितनी मांगे मानी है? कितनी मांगे मानी है?
ये सारी बातें ही हमारी आम सहमति से हुई। उनके सुझाव थे कि ये करना चाहिए, मांगे भी सुझाव भी, आप इसको किसी रूप में लेना चाहें। और सरकार ने बड़े खुले मन के साथ सभी विषयों पर पहले भी और अब भी गंभीरता से बातचीत भी की है। और इन बातों पर, क्योंकि अभी सभी प्लेयर्स ने भी और कोचेस भी जो आए थे और उनके साथ जो बाकी सदस्य आए थे, उन्होंने बहुत पॉजिटिव बातचीत की है और वापस जाकर भी वो अपने समर्थकों के साथ इस बात को रखें।
सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है। सर, एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा बृजभूषण के अरेस्ट का बना हुआ है।
15 जून तक चार्जशीट दायर, यानी कि जांच पूर्ण करके चार्जशीट दायर करने की बात कही है, करेंगे।
जो गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारी बात हुई है खेल मंत्री जी के साथ कि 15 तारीख तक, 15 जून तक जो पुलिस की जो कानून का जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया चल रही है वो पूरी करने की बोली है। और उन्होंने बोला कि 15 तारीख तक आप कोई भी प्रोटेस्ट ना करें। तो हमने जो उन्होंने प्रपोजल, कुछ बिंदुओं में बात हुई कि खिलाड़ियों का सुरक्षा का ध्यान रखा जाएगा, महिला खिलाड़ियों का भी और पुरुष खिलाड़ियों का भी, और जितने भी केस खिलाड़ियों के ऊपर हुए हैं वो वापस लिए जाएंगे। तो वो चीजें सरकार ने मानी है। और जो हमारे साथ बातचीत हुई है वो हम जो हमारे समर्थक हैं, खाप चौधरी हैं, जितने भी हमारे साथ संगठन जुड़े हैं, चाहे वो महिला संगठन है चाहे वो किसान संगठन है, हम सब के सामने वो प्रस्ताव रख देंगे। 1-2 दिन में हम उनकी सहमति उनसे बात करके उनको बता देंगे कि ये चीजें बात हुई है, ये चीजें हम बात हुई है। तो वो चीजें ये लिए भाई, चलो भाई।
गिरफ्तारी पर क्या बात हुई?
देखिए वही सरकार ने बोला कि भाई हम 15 तारीख तक जो पुलिस की प्रक्रिया है वो पूरा करके आप लोगों को बता देंगे।
और ये बताया जा रहा विनेश फोगाट नाराज थी इसलिए शामिल नहीं हुई, क्या वजह थी आज?
ये सारी बोलने की बातें हैं, मुझे नहीं पता कहाँ से ये लोगों के पास आती है। कोई नाराज नहीं है।
वार्ता का दौर चलेगा, अनुराग ठाकुर से और वार्ता होगी।
देखिए अगर कोई और बात हुई तो आगे फिर बातचीत होगी। धन्यवाद जी, धन्यवाद जी।